Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Wellness Wednesday is here. There's so many great things about Wednesday. It's the middle of the month. There's usually all kinds of stuff going on. After Wednesday, you're usually on the downward slope to the weekend. And Wellness Wednesday is just a great way to get started. If you are just stumbling on my page, my name is Donna. I am a mom, a nana, a wellness advocate. I am a grad school student studying for my Master of Science in Clinical Mental Health Counseling, a runner, a jazzercise enthusiast. I line dance at home frequently just so that I can get it in. And the reason you usually see the crazy hair, we could call it Crazy Hair Wednesdays, is because I'm usually coming from or going to a workout when I am on Wellness Wednesday. So if you are new to my page, I started Wellness Wednesday because I have been in a lifelong battle with anxiety and depression. I consider myself to be in recovery, but that is always an in recovery thing. It's never a recovered thing. And I have found that it really, really helps me and others to share our stories and share our information and learn from each other. So this was a great way to start. And I can't believe this is episode 93 already. That is crazy to me. But a few weeks ago, I did a special for 4th of July week called Be a Firework. And it was so good that I got a lot of feedback that it could be broken down into a series. So this is part 3 of a 4-part Be a Firework series. And if you've missed the others, don't worry. They're available on my Facebook page. I usually drop a link for the previous one in the video. And it's very, very easy to go backwards and find all of them. You can also search hashtag Wellness Wednesday. And while a lot of great information may pop up, so will mine. So there's a lot of options. If you missed something, you want to see it, you want to be directed to it, just drop a comment or leave me or send me a message. And I will either tag you or share with you the video that started this all. And then if you need me to, I can also share the previous videos, parts 1 and parts 2. So if you're here, because I don't always see all the things, sometimes I see comments and sometimes I don't. So if you're here, let me know you're here. If you don't see this till afterwards, drop a comment or do a hashtag replay so that I know you saw it. Don't be afraid to ask questions, make comments, share your own information. In fact, in these videos, I've been encouraging you to, as part of an activity, an accountability thing. So don't be afraid to do that. And, if I don't see it, if I don't respond or acknowledge it while I'm on, it's just because Facebook didn't show it to me, and I will definitely do so when I get done. All right, so again, just as a reminder, fireworks are a metaphor for living a vibrant, impactful, and inspiring life. You may hear some recurring themes or repetitions here, and there's a reason for that, because there's so much about wellness. There's so much under the umbrella of wellness and so much that overlaps that you're frequently going to hear a lot of the same information over and over again. And for me, I find that I learn best through repetition. And it's often the 8 billion that's not even a word, time that I hear something that it finally clicks. It just depends on who we are and when we're ready to hear it. So if you're hearing things you heard before, then maybe that's a good time that you've heard before and you're like rolling your eyes and you're like, I've heard this before. I hear this all the time. This is so cliche. Maybe reflect and see if there's something you're not learning from it, and that's why it keeps popping up. Just a thought. Okay, so today we're going to discuss components 5 and 6 of the 8-piece Be a Firework series. So this is part 3. Next week is part 4, and then we'll be done talking about fireworks for, I don't know, at least a few weeks. Good morning, Miss Carla. So today we're going to talk about overcoming challenges. And we're going to talk about creating connections, because these are all very important components. And again, I encourage you to go back and watch the first couple of videos so that you have some kind of an idea what's going on. And if you need help with that, just drop a comment. So overcoming challenges starts with being resilient. Resilience it's a thing, y'all. It seems almost like it's a keyword right now. You know how there's just some words that take off and everybody uses them in everything. But it really is a thing, and being resilient is what gets you through a lot of hardship and obstacles that you face. So there are 8 famous people who kind of embody, there's actually a lot more, but I have a list of 8 that kind of embody resilience, that had to overcome obstacles to get where they are. And that to me means anybody can do it. If somebody like Albert Einstein can overcome obstacles to be as famous as he is or was, then certainly we can overcome our obstacles with some resilience. So 8 famous people who overcame obstacles and demonstrated resilience are Albert Einstein, Vincent van Gogh, Jim Carrey, Thomas Edison, Stephen King, Benjamin Franklin, Bethany Hamilton, Walt Disney, and that's 8. Ooh, I was ready to keep going. But I'm going to pull Jim Carrey out as an example, and maybe Bethany Hamilton. When Jim Carrey was 15, and when we think of Jim Carrey, we think of humor, we think of comedy. We're sure he's probably making millions of dollars with movies. He's sometimes almost a little too funny, or where he's not funny anymore, but he's a tremendous actor. I've seen him in a couple serious films, and I think he's amazing. But when Jim Carrey was 15, he dropped out of school to support his family. And soon after that, he and his family were living in a van. So despite these challenges, Jim Carrey continued to follow his dream of becoming a comedian, and look at where that landed him. So resilience, it's kind of hard to explain, but it essentially means that you think of the Energizer Bunny. And I'm really dating myself here, but no matter, it's like taking the hits and keep on going, getting back up the 8th time when you've been knocked down 7. That's resilience. Resilience is hard to define, but it's easy to give examples of. Another one here, actually, I'll talk about her in a minute, because this list of 8 is going to come up again. So how do you build resilience? Well, the same things and the same ways that we've already been discussing. As you work on your mindset and you work on your confidence, you build resilience. You build your ability. It's almost like building a different part of your immune system. You build your ability to be able to take those hits and keep rolling with the punches. Now, that's an old cliche statement. So you build it by being grateful and finding your gratitude and recognizing the good things to focus on instead of the bad. You find it by seeking support when you need it and not being afraid to ask for help, even if it's just for a listening ear, or recognizing when you're really struggling with some facet of your mental health and seeking help for that. You build resilience by learning from the past and understanding that things that have gone on in the past that you consider to be mistakes can actually be lessons, and learn from them so that they don't happen going forward. If you're anything like me, I know one thing about me is, if I make a mistake and it's to the point where it's a problem and it's embarrassing, or it could have cost me my job or whatever, it never happens again. I can tell you one thing, that particular mistake will never happen again. But there are other things I've experienced, things where I don't, and you may identify with this, situations where I kept, like I've talked before about how I would often err on the side of professionalism, even when it meant that I was personally being sacrificed, for lack of a better way to put it. Like in the case of workforce bullies, that I wouldn't stand up for myself because I was trying in the name of being professional. And those lessons I had to repeat over and over again until I learned them. So we can learn from the past, and that helps us to build resilience and practicing self-care, because self-care, even though it's a very often, it's like a daily used term for everybody now, but we've talked about self-care before, and self-care isn't necessarily just about the act of going to get a facial or massage. It's about doing the things that you need to do to recharge. And if that means a facial or massage, that's fine. But just kind of doing whatever we want in the name of self-care isn't quite it. It's more about recognizing in ourselves the things we have to do to keep ourselves positive, to keep ourselves recharged, and to keep ourselves from overfilling our cup or not filling it enough, if that makes sense. So there's a mentality behind it. But those are ways that you can build resilience. And that building resilience, that's a great topic I haven't discussed yet. That might turn into another Wellness Wednesday topic in the near future. So I would encourage you, your activity on this one, and I've been giving a lot of activities, so if you've been taking notes, if you've been doing the things, make sure that if you feel comfortable, you go back and comment those things. And if you don't feel comfortable, that's totally okay. And if you're like, wait a minute, there were activities, go back to the other videos where you have the ability to watch, because I'm not live anymore in those videos, and pause and go backwards if you need to. So your activity on resilience is to think about a time you faced a significant challenge and overcame it. Reflect on the strategies you used to overcome it and how they made you stronger. And of course, write these down so that you can reflect on them better, and then share them in the comments if you feel comfortable. So the next part of this is perseverance. Perseverance keeps going when things get tough. And that's part of resilience. So despite unexpected obstacles, persistence enables us to persevere, presenting significant rewards and fueling our determination. So how do you persevere? I can't say that word today. Let's try it again. How do you persevere? Well, you keep going. To me, it's like a flip side of the resilience coin. You keep going. How do you stay motivated to keep going? Well, my business coaches, one of the biggest things, and interestingly enough, I was recently inducted into a National Honor Society. Carla's got squirrels. I was recently inducted, I'm still going through the induction process, to a National Leadership and Success Society of National Society of Leadership and Success. It's an honor society. In any case, I got the opportunity to watch some speaker broadcasts that included some pretty well-known people. And even though they're not business coaches, they talk about how they got where they are and what their mindset is and why things don't seem to knock them down the same way they would knock down other people. And we're talking about people like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I'm trying to remember another guy, I think his name was something Berger, but he's an author. There's a reoccurring theme with all these people, whether they're business coaches or not. And guess what that is? Recurring thing with most motivational speakers is resilience. It's having a why and knowing your why, and that why being strong enough to get you out of bed in the morning. So whatever your goal is, the reason behind it, the reason you want to attain that goal has to be strong enough that no matter what, you keep going, even if you slow down for a little bit, and that's okay. So that is a common theme that I see within all of the motivational speakers, business coaches, anybody like that, famous people that get up on the stage. That is a recurring theme, is what's your why? And if it's not strong enough to get you moving in the morning, no matter how tired you are, no matter what else is going on, then maybe it's not strong enough and you need to work on that. So that's where perseverance comes in. It's despite unexpected obstacles, being able to muscle through and stay motivated. So how do we do that? We stay motivated by setting small achievable goals. And we've talked about this before. Small achievable goals. I did a video on SMART goals where I touched on SMART goals at least a little bit. And I'm struggling to remember what the acronym stands for right now. It's all in here. It just you have to poke the right sequence of buttons. But setting small achievable goals. By achievable, I don't mean things that are easy. So this is my goal so that I know I can accomplish it. I mean small goals that are maybe just outside of what you think your reach is, so that you do have to reach a little bit further. That's an important part of that. Celebrating your progress. We've talked about that. I talked about that last week. Making sure you take time to pat yourself on the back, because we are in a society of, okay, we hit that goal next, and not stopping to reflect, to see what we learned, to celebrate that we hit that goal. And that leads to burnout, no matter what your goals are, whether they're business, personal, whatever, it can lead to burnout. So making sure that we stop and celebrate the progress when we hit those goals, and staying focused on the end goal. Now, with that said, this is a recurring theme that I see, is staying focused on the end goal. But there's an important theme that's been coming up not only in my studies, but in my wellness world, in my master's world, all of these places. And I've recently met someone who is trying to build a program that would be targeted at student athletes and more important, people that coach student athletes. Good morning, Chris. And it's funny because he's talking about coaching students, okay? But a theme came up that I remembered. I was like, oh, hey, my business, another business coach or mentor talked about this a couple years ago. It's the same theme, and it obviously doesn't just apply to business. It applies to athletes. It applies to anything. So while I may talk about staying focused on the end goal, there's a really important component of that perseverance, and that is continuing to do the activities that will get you there, regardless of the results. And good morning, Miss Peggy. What this person that's trying to build this credentialed program is talking about is, and my mentor, my business mentor, Ray, what both of them are speaking about is when you are working on the activities that are going to get you to your goal, there are going to be times where you're not getting results, where it can be frustrating and you think you're not getting results. And 90% of the time, people quit because of that right before things are about to explode. So this person teaches athletes, his athletes. He's an athletic coach. He teaches his athletes that it's not about whether or not you win the game, not to be so focused on winning the game, but be focused on the activities that you can do day in and day out that will lead to winning the game. And if you're focused on the activities instead of the end result, your overall picture is going to be stronger. You are going to be stronger, and you are going to be able to persevere more, if that makes sense. So focusing on activities versus results. If I continued or stopped doing Wellness Wednesday based on the number of viewers I had every day, well, we know that would never work, because half the time I don't see you guys and don't even know you're here until I'm done, right? So it would be easy for me to be like, nobody listens to me, nobody cares, I'm not impacting anybody, I'm just going to quit. When I know that's not really the case. So I continue to do the activity regardless of what the results each Wednesday are. Because I know I always find out like weeks later that you're watching. Even if I never saw your comment, even if you never said good morning, even if I never saw your eyeball up in the left-hand corner that Facebook gives me, I usually find out at some point that someone has been watching that I had no idea. So I keep going because the activity and the importance of what I'm doing is more important than the end result. For me, God's got the end result. Whatever happens beyond me doing this video is a blessing, but it's not necessarily something that I'm required to see because I'm doing the activity. I'm focused on the activity, not the result. If that makes sense, that's the best way I can think of to describe that. Okay, so again, let's go back to this 8 famous people, because perseverance, to me, like I said, is the, thank you, Miss Carla, is the flip side of the resilience thing. So I said I was going to go back to Bethany Hamilton. She was one of these 8 famous people. So see if this sounds familiar when I read the synopsis of her story, which is at 13 years old, Bethany Hamilton had her left arm bitten off by a shark during a surfing accident. And instead of admitting defeat, she went back to her surfboard 1 month later and continued to practice. 2 years later, she was able to win first place in the Explorer Women's Division. This is going to make me cry, y'all. I know who this is. I think there was a movie done about her. The Explorer Women's Division of the NSSA National Championships. If that isn't overcoming a difficult obstacle, I don't know what is. There are stories like this all day, every day, from some people that are famous, some people that aren't. They're out there every day, and there's stories of resilience and perseverance that despite sometimes extremely tremendous odds, people keep going. So with that said, an activity here that we can talk about is I would like you to set a goal. I challenge you to set a goal that you want to achieve and create. It can be a small one. It's okay. Baby steps. Create a plan to reach it. But when you're creating that plan, include potential obstacles that would keep you from doing it, and add a plan or a trick or a method for overcoming that obstacle. For example, I want to get back to meditating every day. I was doing that for a while. I meditated every day for over 90 days. It was life-changing. But as much as I preach self-care, I struggle to make time for myself when things are really busy. So if I was to set a goal to get back to meditating every single day for, part of being a SMART goal is to have it time specific, for 3 minutes a day, every day for a week. What is something that might interfere with that? Well, something that might interfere with that is my very busy schedule and me telling myself the story that I don't have time to do it. How would I conquer that? I would maybe put Post-it notes everywhere reminding me to meditate until I actually did it. Sorry, guys. Yellow flies are the devil, I'm telling you. So it's a bite right here. I'm not itching my armpits, just so you know. So I might put these Post-it notes everywhere. And how do I overcome the challenge of not making time or even forgetting until I'm in bed? I set an alarm reminding me to meditate so that it goes off. Oh, look, I get cute little reactions now. Thank you, iPhone. I don't know if you guys saw the thumbs up when I did that, but it was interesting. Anyway, I might set an alarm reminding me at a certain time every night to do that meditation. Stick Post-it notes up where I will be reminded to do it before I go to bed. There's just a lot of ways, but you kind of see my example there. So, set a goal you want to achieve, create a plan, and think about one way of achieving that and how you can overcome that obstacle. A lot of times the obstacles are us. I'm just going to be frank. A lot of times my biggest problem is me getting in my own way. So be honest with yourself when you're doing that. Okay, so the other part of perseverance is, and resilience is the growth mindset. Having a growth mindset means that you view challenges as opportunities for growth instead of, it's a victor versus victim mindset. It's the belief that it's also the belief that basic abilities can be developed and improved through effort and persistence. There's that recurring theme. So, how can we do that? How can we look at those things? Well, we've talked about that. It might be my internet. It might be yours, Chris, but thanks for letting me know. I'm not seeing freezes on my end, but you just never know. Yes, a watch alarm is a great idea, Miss Carla. So you can start with embracing failures and recognizing them as you can't be successful if you don't fail. It's like an equal and opposite reaction. Sometimes we have to fail in order to be successful. So embrace your failures, learn from them, seek feedback. Like in school, I'm in grad school, and I feel like so far my experience has been that means I get less feedback on papers and things like that than I ever have before. And part of me is like, okay, I get it. I'm in grad school. We're supposed to know what we're doing. We shouldn't need feedback. We've got a rubric. If we follow it, the points tell us what we got. I still think that we need feedback. I still think we need to be told if we're barking up the wrong tree on something, especially in the field of counseling, right? Now, I'm getting ready to go to a residency next week where I'm going to have 4.5 days in front of people practicing skills. I'm going to be getting some feedback there, which is probably going to be more feedback than I've gotten the entire time since I started grad school in October. But seek feedback. As long as it's constructive and it's given in love, if you will, then it's important. If it's just people being jerks, that's not feedback. But real constructive criticism, feedback, is important. Like Chris telling me that I'm freezing up on him. Those are important things. And another important part of a growth mindset is staying curious. It's that learning aspect. We need to keep learning new things. We need to learn more about the things we don't know. If we have the mindset that if we don't know it, we can learn it, that is a growth mindset, y'all. It cut and dried. Okay, so part 2 of this Wellness Wednesday is creating connections. So I'm going to try to move through this a little bit faster because I am running a little long today, as often happens when I have stories to tell with it. But I think the stories make it more interesting. I don't know, but it's important to have community support and personal support when it comes to personal and professional growth. And make no mistake, these things apply across the board, whether it's personal or professional. So how do we do that? We build relationships and we form meaningful connections, which is something I've talked about several times before. And it's proven that that strong relationships like this, strong emotional connections, improve our emotional and mental well-being. We are a social people. Even those of us that think we're loners and could just live without anybody for the rest of our lives, and that's how I used to think, we are in fact social creatures. We were designed that way. So you start, how do you form meaningful connections? You start by active listening. Active listening means that you, oh, my phone's up here. That you put your phone down when you're talking with somebody, that you keep it put away, that you're focused on them, that you're not scrolling all over the place, which for some of us is harder than others, because if I'm in a place where there's people walking around, I notice this and I notice that. But trying to actively listen to the person, not just listen to them to respond, but listen to hear what they're saying. You show empathy. Showing empathy is a huge part of building meaningful connections. If somebody's told you that they've just lost their fill in the blank, pet, loved one, whatever, oh, I'm sorry to hear that, and not having any kind of empathy, or just throwing out some words that don't really mean anything does not help build meaningful connections. Or, oh, I'm sorry, changing the subject back to whatever you were talking about is not showing empathy. Most importantly, being genuine. If I got on here and I was robotic, or if I only maybe did pre-recorded videos that were perfect where I made no mistakes with any of my words, and we know that's not going to happen, then that wouldn't be me being authentic or genuine. You guys see the bad, the good, and the ugly when I'm on here, and that's genuine, and that's me being authentic. So those are important parts of building meaningful connections. Strong positive relationships, as I've said, they're not only linked to emotional and mental well-being, but they've definitely been linked to lower anxiety and depression levels and higher self-esteem. So they're really important. So I would challenge you on your activity for this to reach out to someone you love and share a positive message or express gratitude for them, or schedule some quality time with them. And if you're comfortable, come back and comment in how that helped, that you did it. You don't have to say with who or what, but that you did it and what that impact was, what kind of an impact it had. Because more than likely, if you reach out to somebody you love and you share a positive message with them or schedule some quality time with them, it's going to have a positive impact, right? Chances are it's going to. So we also, another thing to do is to support others by lifting them up and encouraging their journey. And that means, again, offering support through encouragement and being a good listener and help. This also helps strengthen relationships, because it creates a sense of belonging for both you and the other person. And it can, and that's actually proven to reduce the emotional effect of physical challenges. So when you lift others up, whatever that looks like for you, encouraging them, praying for them, whatever the case may be for you, however you lift others up, shouting them out on social media, whatever the case may be, lifting others up. I lost my spot here on my notes, and I could, y'all, I'm good, but I'm not that good. I can't do this without my notes. Hold on. It can actually help reduce the emotional effects of physical challenges, and make other people and yourself feel, what's the word I'm looking for? That's not in my notes. Some of this stuff I just make up, y'all. Just feel more like a community, even if it's just two people. That's about the best way I can describe it. So, how do we do that? Through acts of support. Think about how you can help a friend, a family member, or colleague. And do that. That's that time, treasure, talent thing I talked about. It doesn't mean you have to throw money at something, especially if you don't have it. If you've got a talent that will help them, use it. If you have, so time, talent, treasure, obviously if you have time and that's what they need, sometimes like one of the things that I love to promote, and actually need to do myself, I've just not made time to do it, is I hear more and more how senior citizens in homes benefit and do, Boys and Girls Club is a great example, do so well when people come and read to them, because not all of them have visitors, not all of them have family that's coming in. So time, like Boys and Girls Club, my local Boys and Girls Club took some kids to a nursing home, senior citizens home, whatever the proper way to say it is. And they did some book reading and played some games with these senior citizens. The pictures were phenomenal. The faces, the kids' faces, the adults' faces. Those are little things that you can do with your time if you don't feel like you have treasure or talent. So how can you help a friend, a family member, or a colleague? Think about that. Write it down. Find somebody to do an act of support for. Kind of the same, not quite the same as a random act of kindness. It just kind of depends on how you look at it. We talked about those last week. But share with us if you're willing. You can also message me. You don't have to put it in the comments what you did. You don't have to say where. You don't have to say with who. Again, if you feel comfortable. But think of a way that you can support others around you through your time, treasure, or talent. Okay, so finally, as the last part of this is to share your light and be open to sharing your experiences and wisdom. So let me just disclaimer this by saying when I started Wellness Wednesday, wise isn't a word I would have used to describe me. But what I am doing is sharing my experiences because it may help somebody else. And I'm encouraging you to share your experiences with me because that might help me. That might help somebody else that's reading the comments or watching later or whatever. So sharing personal experiences and knowledge to inspire and guide others will help them grow and succeed. What we leave behind, how we impact others is oftentimes more important than what we accumulate, the things around us. That's our legacy, is what we leave behind and what kind of hope and what kind of light we give to other people. That's my opinion. So we can share our personal experiences and knowledge to inspire and guide others and help them to grow and succeed. And that's kind of a legacy, whether it's our grandkids, whether it's the neighbor down the street, whatever the case may be. So your activity on this is, how can you share your light with others? Examples like mentorship or sharing your story or teaching a skill. I mentioned quite some time ago that my daughter, it took her a long time, but she finally shared a little piece on social media about her experience with an abusive partner. It was just a tiny little piece. There's a lot more. But I was so proud of her for sharing that, because there's two things that happen when you get to the point where you can share a piece of that. And I mean sharing a piece of that with, this is the memory I have, and this is what its impact was, versus, again, victim or versus victor, like, I overcame this versus poor me, this happened to me. There's definitely a difference in mindset there. But she shared just a little piece of it based on something that triggered a memory. And even though it was just the tip of the iceberg, two things are happening here. The fact that she could share that much means she's starting to heal. And the number two thing is, somebody else, I'm convinced that somebody else who is experiencing what she was experiencing saw that post and either became honest with themselves for the first time, or started to take action to protect themselves for the first time. Absolutely 100% convinced of it. So that's what I mean by mentoring or sharing your story. If you have a story that could positively impact somebody else in a similar situation, share it. That's part of sharing your light. Somebody else may need to hear that story and learn from it. You can teach a skill. Maybe you don't necessarily feel you have a talent, but you're good at a particular skill. Like Chris has been posting some very serious smoker skills lately for cooking on the smoker. Maybe you could teach a skill. So how can you share your light? What's a way you can share your light? Are you fantastic at crocheting and there's somebody else that has mentioned several times that they would love to learn? I was just talking to somebody on Facebook the other day, a friend of mine who posted all this basil and was talking about making her own pesto. And I'm like, I need to know how to do that. Of course, I need to learn how to grow basil first. Basil. But I certainly would love to make my own pesto. And I suggested to her that she should teach us how to make, or share the recipe or teach us how to make pesto. And she said, I could do a tutorial. So there are ways that you can mentor or share your story or teach a skill that will absolutely shine light on others and help them to shine a light as well. So I would challenge you to figure out a way you can do that, even just something tiny. And again, if you figure out a way, even if you need help coming up with a plan on how to do that, comment, reach out to me in the messages. Let's talk about it. Because just sharing that comment might inspire or motivate somebody else to do the same thing, or to reach out to you if they're like, oh, you have this skill, can you tell me about it? You know what I mean? So that's pretty much it for today. Overcoming challenges and creating connections. Those are two major components of being a firework and leading that vibrant, impactful life. So, like I said, go back. You can take notes. When I'm not live anymore, you can work these just like regular videos. You can hit pause. I think you can go forward like maybe 15 seconds at a time, whatever. You just have to give it time to finish posting and actually become a permanent part of my Facebook page. And then you'll be able to go back and check out the notes. So you can also save the video. There's 3 dots up in the upper right-hand corner. You can save it if you're a digital hoarder like me, and it'll be in your Facebook saved items. Another tutorial later on how to access those. But you do have the ability always to come back to my page and see these videos, because I know this Firework series is a little bit more involved and has a lot of challenges and suggested activities. So with that said, next week we are going to... See, I need my notes because otherwise I'll forget my name, y'all. Next week, we're going to wrap this up with the last 2 components of the original Be a Firework video, which is embracing moments of stillness and celebrating diversity. And then that will be it on the 4-part Be a Firework series. If you need anything, if you need information on these, need a link, whatever, let me know. Send me a message, drop a comment. And most importantly, if you found this inspiring or helpful, please feel free to share because it might inspire or help someone else. I hope you have a fabulous day. I hope you got something out of this and found it helpful. And I look forward to seeing you next week to wrap up this amazing Fireworks series. Have an awesome Wednesday and be well.